Hey guys, Nathan here from NBJ Joinery, showing you how I fit this really cool bespoke fitted bedroom. As you can see, it's got a chimney breast that was incorporated into the design, a chest of drawers with some cool internals, and overall just a really cool looking bedroom. So I'm going to show you step by step how I fit this thing, and let's get into it. Now, the bedroom that I'm actually fitting on this video was applied and designed by Terry Lynn Interiors. They have a great shop in the northeast, and they supply and design everything to do with kitchens and bedrooms, so they're really great to check out. I'll be leaving their link in the description to their website and socials. So if you're in the market for a bedroom or kitchen, check them out. So the first thing I do on their specific bedrooms, because they build their wardrobes a bit different, is I get out my trestles and I just lay all the sides of the wardrobes out flat on the trestles. Now, the side of a wardrobe is also known as a gable, so if I mention a gable or anyone mentions what a gable is, that's basically just the left or right side of a wardrobe. And I know that each one needs 10 of the metal dowels, 7 of the wooden dowels, 2 feet, so I basically get those out on each gable, put them all in, and then put it to the side. I do this on all 8 gables, since there's 4 wardrobes, and there's 2 gables per wardrobe, so just prepping them all up. And now, thank God, the really boring preparation bit is done with the gables. We can start the assembly. Although before we start the assembly, I've now got to prep the backs and the tops and the little panels that go below. So I just get these lined up with each other, pop the cams in little round metal things. Once they're all prepped, then the assembly really starts. So getting one gable on the floor, I then get the top in, I get the bottom railing, making sure that on the top the cams with the little round metal things on the outside, not the inside. Once they're in, the back can slide in. Again, tighten all the cams up, screw the back to the top, and then finally put the last gable in, tighten it all up, and you have an assembled wardrobe essentially. Just flip it up, stand it up, and roughly just put it in place, ready for the next one. And now I have the very tedious job of doing that another 3 times. So 3 more times I'll get them on the floor, build them up, stand them up, put them roughly in place, and then we can start leveling them up. Okay, now that we have the wardrobes built, they're roughly in position, we need to level them up. So to do that, I just measure from the top of the wardrobe down about 1 meter, all the way around, on the inside too, and that way I can put my laser on the pole, line up that pencil mark to the laser, and get them all like 90% level. It gets them really close, and then I have to go back to each individual one and do the finishing touches to finish leveling it up. But that's a really good trick to get them just roughly in place and then ready for the finishing touches. So I don't spend too much time showing you this because it's not that interesting, but that's how I do it. I will get them roughly in place, ready for the end panels to go in. Before I put those end panels in, I actually use a shelf as a divider between the 2 middle wardrobes and the outer wardrobes, just because it's the same thickness as the end panel. An end panel is just going to go there from floor to ceiling as a divider between the inner and the outer wardrobes. Great, so now we can get those end panels on. I find the best way to do it is because I know that my wardrobe is level on the top. I can measure from the top of my wardrobe to the ceiling, front and back. That'll tell me what angle the ceiling's at in millimeters, so I can transfer that measurement to my end panel to cut the ceiling angle, and then I can measure from my ceiling to the floor, front and back, transfer that over, and in theory that should give us the perfect angled ceiling and perfect angled floor on the panel. Cut that aside, slide it in, and then screw it in place, facing it between the 2 wardrobes together, giving a really good fixing, and that also just makes it look really good as well. Do this on both sides, and that was the last thing I did today since it was getting on a bit. And yeah, that was the end of day 1. Okay, day number 2 on the site. The first thing that I did today was cut all my plinths and ceiling fillers to length. The middle section obviously is end panel to end panel, so that was dead easy. Then on the floor it was like skirting board end panel. Then on the ceiling, again, it was just wall to end panel. Just cut all 6 ready, that way I could describe them all in one go. Stored on the right hand side on the plinth. So I just put it in place, leveled it up, then I can use my compass to check the distance between the top of the wardrobe rail to the top of the plinth. Then I know that I just need to whip that off the bottom, cut it, fits perfect every time. Now we can move on to the ceiling filler. It's not that complicated, to be fair. I use a U-scribe, so I just clip it onto the top of the wardrobe, use an offcut, run along the ceiling to get that angle of the ceiling drawn on. Same around the coving, do it around the coving, get that marked up. Cut it, use the offcut from that cut and make like an L-shape filler so that it sits proud of the cornice, 23mm to be exact, so that's like flush with the door. And it just means when the door goes on, it all sits very flat and looks nice and modern. And last but not least, for the right side is the side filler. Very similar to how I do the ceiling filler, and I use the U-scribe to attach it to the side of the wardrobe, use an offcut of the same width again, run that down the wall, marking my filler. I can then cut that off, and then again use the offcut to make an L-shaped filler, so that's flush with the ceiling filler and the doors. So the idea is when you're running your hands along it, or you're looking at it, it all kind of feels the same depth. So there's no like big jumps in or out. That's the idea, to give like a very smooth transition, I guess you could call it. And it's basically do that on the left hand side next. So plinth, ceiling filler, left hand wall filler, they're done. And then in the middle section, obviously there's no side fillers, it's just a plinth and a ceiling filler. Then that's essentially all the scribing on this job. It's done. You know, I make it sound simple, but it actually is kind of that simple. There's nothing mega complicated going on. As long as you mark it right, you cut it accurately, you can't really go too wrong per se. And if it's not absolutely perfect, there's always cork. I do avoid cork if possible, but again, it is always the kind of thing to fall back on if you need to use it. But yeah, in this case, it was really nice tight scribes, so yeah, it went really well. Fantastic. Now that all the dusty, dirty work in these wardrobes are done, we can do the more easier bits, which is first putting all the shelves in, basically all the internals in. So I'll start with the shelves in the far right. The customer kind of went for very bespoke shelving inside, so you can see we've got some shelves on the right. In the left section, it's a lot more shelving, which you can see later on in the video because I'll order a few bits. There's some internal drawers with a worktop, and so there's just a few other bits and pieces inside, and that really is to the customer's very specific wants and needs. She wanted very specific heights, very specific rails. You know, the whole point of getting a bespoke fitted bedroom is that it is just that, it is bespoke. Nothing is like off the shelf or set in stone. I can speak to the customer and say, where do you want this? How deep do you want this? How do you want this to work? What are you putting in there to make it like the most efficient and best use of space? So that's kind of what we did, and I can see it looks really good inside. Scribing done. Internals pretty much done. Bar one wardrobe. We can now do the really fun bit of putting doors on. This is really easy again. Put the catch plates on the actual carcasses so the hinges clip into. I get all my doors out, lay them on the trestles, hinge them all up, hang them as I go, and just get them all rattled off really fast, hang them on, and then just sort of like level them out a bit, get them so all the heights are the same. Obviously, we do have a little bit of play here because of the kind of segregation of the wardrobes, but we want them all when you walk in so they all look the same, and if it looks right, it is right. By this point, my shelving and stuff had come, so I was able to jump onto that wardrobe that didn't have the internals done yet. It was basically just a divider down the middle, shelves on the left of the divider, shelves on the right of the divider, slightly more on the left just because she was putting shoes and other bits on that side, and slightly less on the right because she was putting bags on that side. Again, very specific to what the customer needed and wanted. There wasn't just like, alright, this is the plan, this is what's been agreed, you have to have it at this height. There's always a conversation with the customer, making sure that they're getting exactly what they want. Wardrobe area is now essentially finished. We've got to put handles on the doors and, you know, a bit of the touch-ups and bits and pieces. But essentially, we can move on to the next area, which is the double chest of drawers. It's literally just two drawer carcasses that are screwed together, kind of making into one big double unit. Leveled it up, put the end panels on, left first, again scribe to the floor, scribe to the wall, so it's nice and tight on both. Do that on both sides. We'll put the worktop on, and we put a plinth on. The plinth is obviously scribed to the floor, and the worktop is scribed to the wall. The worktop was ordered at the perfect width, since obviously we can't cut the width since you see both ends of it, so it needs to be they get finished edge on both sides. So yeah, it was kind of, I make it sound simple. Obviously there's a lot more to it in actually doing it, but in layman's terms that's essentially how we made it. So once it was in, I gave the customer a shout to make sure she was happy with it, and of course she was. Now we can get our drawer fronts on. Really not that complicated. Again, I use plastic glazing packers. Each colour is like a different thickness, so I just used whichever ones I needed in that situation to set the drawers up, clamp them in place, screw through the back, lock in place. There is some adjustments on the drawer boxes to go up and down a bit. Not a lot, but just enough for a bit of, tweaking. Get them up. I do get to a point where I realise there's like a secret jewellery drawer in this on the left hand side, which needs a bit of jiggery pokery because the mechanism is deeper than the carcass. So we do a bit of magic cutting the backs out and stuff, but we do make it work. The most important thing is the end product. As long as it doesn't really matter too much how we get there, as long as when the customer walks in and he uses what will fit, if it works right, it looks right, everyone's happy. So we did a bit of jiggery pokery there, got all the fronts on, and yeah, it looks really good. So now that we have the chest drawer area more or less finished again, same as the main wardrobe area where it's just ready for handles. We want to do all the handles together like I said before, so now we'll do the very last area, which is the bedside table, which actually came, for some reason, very slightly too tall, which is actually a good thing. I'd rather it come too big than too small, because I can easily cut it down to the right height, but I can't add it on to the right height. So it was no big deal, just a few cuts, cut it down, nothing major. So once that was cut down, put the end panels on, put the top on, the plinth on. Everything's kind of pre-cut for the bedside table because it's freestanding, so it just makes my life really easy. So once that was assembled, it just gets kind of pushed in place and it just sits there, ready to be used. So finally, wardrobe area, ready for handles. Chest of drawers area, ready for handles. Bedside table area, ready for handles. Do you know what that means? You can put in handles. So I've masking taped it up, marked all the holes out, just drill them all out with my combi drill. It's a 5mm hole in case you were wondering. The only thing is on the drawers, because it's like double thickness and the screws aren't long enough, I then take a larger, I think I use a 10mm drill bit, and I recess the inside of the drawers so that the head sits inside, and I just get that bit of extra length to put on the knobs. Really nothing really overly complicated. I use a combination square to mark them out. On the drawers there were knobs, and on the big nice doors we use handles. Now that all the handles are on, we can now go on to clean every single bit of this job down. So I used to hoover out all the insides of the wardrobes, and then I use a PVC cleaner and a microfiber cloth to get rid of all my pencil marks and any dust or any other bits and pieces that might be inside. Go over the insides, go over the outsides, the fillers, just make it so when at the end of the job, when the customer comes in, it looks nice and it's ready to use. They can just stop putting their clothes in and actually use it for its intended purpose straight away. And I actually almost forgot about this. There's actually a mirror to go in one of the doors. I always recommend you use the door that has a natural light coming into the room. Obviously one that's also accessible. But in this wardrobe, there was the socket for the hairdryer, some drawers for the bits and pieces to go in for makeup and whatever, and you had the natural light from the window behind it. So it just made perfect sense for this door to be the one that gets the mirror. So I just used some double-sided tape, some mirror adhesive. The tape just holds in place till the adhesive goes off, and then that mirror is not going anywhere. Once it's on forever. And that was all she wrote, really. That's the full job from start to finish over 3 days. Well, it was about 2.5 days because I started late on the Monday. But yeah, from start to finish, customers over the moon. The job looks really good. Again, everything about this was completely bespoke. Nothing off the shelf. Everything was made to order for this job to a very specific size and specification. Again, this was fit for Terry Lynn Interiors. I'll leave his website and his socials in the link below. But yeah, check them out. You might even be able to get a bedroom fit by yours truly. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.